The greatest mistake most of us make is not a lack of dreams. It is the naive belief that the future is something that will simply arrive on some fine day. We live and we wait, waiting for a life-changing call, waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for a more perfect version of ourselves to emerge after some major event. Yet, there are those who know this harsh truth all too well. They understand that the future does not lie behind some distant bend in time, but is being forged right now in the most private moments when no one is watching. And yet, despite knowing this truth, why do most of us remain trapped, letting our future drift away into the void? In today's video, we will unpack the answer through the lens of Stoicism to understand what is truly deciding your future. The answer perhaps lies here. Most of us are unknowingly trapped in a subtle psychological snare, treating the present as a temporary hallway rather than the home where our life is actually taking place. You tell yourself, once I pay off my debt, then I'll truly start living. Once I find the right person, then I'll finally have peace. Once I reach that position, then I'll be proud. And while you are busy negotiating with a future that has never existed, the only moment you truly possess, which is right now, slips away in vain. Seneca once wrote in his letters to Lucilius, "The greatest loss of time is delay. It takes away each day as it comes, and denies us the present by promising the future. The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." Why is the price of procrastination so devastating, yet so many of us are still willing to pay it? Because procrastination speaks an extraordinarily persuasive language. It never asks you to give up on your dreams. It simply suggests postponing them just a little bit. You're tired today. Skipping one workout won't hurt. This difficult conversation is too hard. Let's leave it for next week. Just 10 more minutes on social media. Nobody ever died from that. One day of delay turns into a week turns into a year. It is from this very point that many of us accidentally slip into a toxic loop: procrastination, guilt, seeking momentary comfort, and then procrastinating again. Over time, this hesitation hardens into your self-perception, into your identity. You begin to believe that you are inherently an undisciplined person, someone helpless against your own bad habits. But Stoicism reminds us of a truth. Your identity is forged by your repeated choices, not by fleeting emotions. You do not need to feel inspired in order to act. You can take the next step even while doubt is still creeping through your mind. To understand the power of this quiet discipline and persistence, picture a stonemason building a wall. He places the first stone upon the bare ground. No one applauds. From a distance, it looks tiny and meaningless. On the second day, he places the second stone. Passers-by still see nothing more than a messy plot of land. Yet he continues, day after day, regardless of the weather, regardless of whether anyone notices. Years later, a solid wall stands tall against the storm. The world calls it a miracle. But the mason knows that strength did not appear with the final stone. It was decided from the very first one, when no one was watching. Your self-respect and character are built in the exact same way. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, whether it's simply waking up on time or putting your phone away to focus for 30 minutes, you have just laid another stone. This is what I call private evidence. Self-trust does not come from external praise or empty slogans. It comes from your mind silently registering, this is a reliable human being. Even when no one is checking, he still does what he said he would do. Conversely, every time you carelessly break a commitment to yourself, you send a silent signal that your word means nothing. Self-confidence dies, not because the world crushes you, but because you have lost faith in yourself from within. When seeking Stoicism for self-improvement, many expect a miracle. They want a formula to make them invincible, immune to pain. But Stoicism does not teach you to pretend that tragedy does not exist. This philosophy teaches you to master your own response. And to do that, the absolute prerequisite is learning to create a space between stimulus and response. Most of us live on automatic reflex. An insult immediately triggers anger. A failure instantly sparks panic. When a reaction occurs in the blink of an eye, the mind has no room to think. A 3-second pause is where true freedom begins. It is precisely within that brief silence that you gain the clarity to separate reality from the judgments of your mind. Because reality, by nature, is completely neutral. A falling rain has no intention of ruining your day. A recruiter's rejection does not mean your human worth has been diminished. Pain is real, but prolonged suffering is the story you tell yourself. Just as the philosopher Epictetus once reminded us, external events cannot hurt your spirit. It is the story you whisper to yourself about the world that shatters you. To pause, take a deep breath, and ask, does this reaction help me become the person I want to be? That is the exact moment you transition from instinctual reflex to conscious choice. And the final thing we need is the ability to let go of what lies beyond our reach, because most of our energy and peace of mind vanish simply from trying to control what was never ours to begin with. Other people's judgments belong to them. Your reactions and your worth belong to you. Remember the stonemason. That wall stands tall not because of the applause of passers-by, nor does the mason drop his trowel over a few harsh words. It stands firm simply because the mason chose to lay every single stone on a solid foundation, guided by his own devotion. Building peace of mind upon public opinion is like erecting a stone wall on mud. Today they cheer, tomorrow they turn away. If our inner peace depends on the applause from the crowd, we will forever remain slaves to the moods of others. And the future is no different. Tomorrow, whether it brings storms or sunshine, has never been under your absolute control. The harder you try to grasp or fear a distant future, the more you lose the only power you actually hold, this present moment. By now, perhaps you have come to realize the future was never a distant place to chase or wait for. The future is a canvas being painted by the smallest brushstrokes of today. Every time you choose honesty over an easy lie. Every time you choose to listen instead of reacting with anger. Every time you keep a promise to yourself. That is when you are silently building, quietly forging your own future. Do not wait for a perfect tomorrow. Start right here, right now, with one right choice for yourself. I choose today. Thank you for spending your time reflecting with the Stoic path in today's video. If you are ready to train your mind and master your emotions against the storms out there, click on the video appearing on your screen to continue this journey.